Wow, I'm live. I assume there's no people here. Excuse me for the slight minute's delay, but I had a huge... Look, it's an I with a zero. It's 0 people tuning in. My popularity, it never ceases to amaze me. So, if anyone watches this at a later date, welcome to your drunk uncle. Gets his guitar out. So, oh, Chili's there. Hello, Chili. It says there's 0 people watching, and yet Chili's there. So, welcome. This is to celebrate 500 subscribers. Can you believe it? It's not very many, is it? But I thought that I would celebrate every milestone on my journey. There's a few questions and there's a few chats, and I'm going to play a few songs, and I hope you enjoy. I'm sure the sound is rubbish. I had to borrow a microphone for this because my microphone died. Everything, all of my electronic equipment, including the washing machine, is dying at the moment. And so, yeah, this is it. I'm going to play a song. Can you hear that? If anyone's watching, can you hear that? So, I'm going to play a song. And this is a song by John Grant, who is amazing. And it's off his first album called Queen of Denmark. And it's brilliant. There's one person watching. Hello, that one person who's watching. Write a comment so I know who you are. It's Chili. Chili, it's you and me. And I'm doing a private gig for Chili right now. So Chili, you're in Israel. Yeah? Did you move back to Israel? Did COVID force you back to Israel? Just going to wait for Chili to see if he comments. Unfortunately, yeah. We're never going to finish that Curse of Strahd campaign. All right, so here's a song for all you who aren't watching. You may watch it at a later date. Now, what you see here is I can't remember chords on the guitar. I'm awful at remembering chords on the guitar. So I can't play any songs. Like you pick up a guitar and someone says, "Oh, can you play me a song?" And I'm just like, "No, I can't. I can't remember any." I can play Rate Me by Nirvana, and then that's about it. But the internet offers you music. And so I can read the music and then play the song. So this is called Sigourney Weaver by John Grant. When I woke up today, the air was very strange. I couldn't feel my skin, and there was evil in my bones. I tried to speak but found didn't have a voice. It was a prison like the one you would find in the Twilight Zone. And I feel just like Sigourney Weaver when she had to kill those aliens. And one guy tried to get them back to the earth, and she couldn't believe her ears. So I was taken Nicanor, I went towards what was west, where the ground was dead and struck out at the giant sky. The sky was black and filled with tiny silver holes. It was there with a frightened voice I began to cry out loud. I feel just like Winona Ryder in that movie about vampires. And she couldn't get that accent right. Neither could that other guy. And I feel just like I'm on Jupiter, the one that looks like rainbow sherbet. But it doesn't lend itself to life, and I haven't finished yet. There we go. First song down. We've got 2 people watching. Amazing. So this was a 500 subscribers Jamboree and also a Q&A thing. So I put some posts up and they got next to no response, but I did get some questions. So we're going to go to Board Game Geek and see what people have asked me. So Danny Perello at Relax, all the way from Canada, has asked me, given that board gaming is perceived by many to be as much a social experience as a mental puzzle, what are your overall thoughts and feelings on solo gaming, both in theory and in practice? Now, if you'd have asked me this before the lockdown, I think I would have been pretty absolutist in my assertion that I don't see the point in solo gaming. I don't do puzzles. I don't do Sudoku. I don't do crosswords particularly. And I got into gaming as an attempt in my mid-30s to give me something to do other than go to the pub, right? Didn't work particularly well, but nevertheless. And so I got into gaming for that reason, to meet people. Then I realized I really loved the games and I loved the whole world. And, you know, like, it's funny. When I'd never had a community in that sense before, like a hobby. You know, I'm into football and I'm into movies and I'm into books, but I never treated them like a hobby in the way that games became a hobby. And for a while, you know, for the first 6 months, like a complete obsession, though, you know, they're such a huge factor in my life now. And so once you throw yourself into something in that way, you start to care about the community and what the community is like and whether the community reflects the world in which the world in the way that you wish to see it, right? And that's been a really interesting journey for me in the, you know, I stopped looking at Twitter simply because most of the people I follow on Twitter are board gaming people, and it feels like the community is tearing people apart. They're tearing each other apart on the one hand, and then on the other hand, there's also this sense that people are trying to outdo each other in looking good, and neither of these things particularly, I find particularly, what's the word I'm looking for? Particularly seemly, I suppose. And that's interesting. That's nothing to do with the question. So solo games. I bought a couple just to try out. I bought Friday, and while I recognized it was brilliant, I couldn't really get behind it. I just couldn't get into it. I couldn't play it. I bought Finished, Freedom and Freezer again, and while it was fine, I've never been a patience player, right? I've never played Solitaire for you Americans, if any of you are watching. Oh, by the way, if you have any questions, pop them in the chat, please. I'd like questions to answer. And so I tried these, and then lockdown happened, and I'd just done an acting job, and it was a well-paid acting job in which I was awful because I had to do it. I had to learn 5 pages block text of German in a week, and it was a complete nightmare. But nevertheless, they said, "Oh, you'll have 3 paragraphs. You just have 3 paragraphs in German. It's fine." I thought, "Great, you're paying me loads of money. 3 paragraphs." And then a week before, here's your script, 4 pages of block text of German. Anyway, so I thought, I'm going to treat myself because this is horrendous, and I hadn't lost my job, and you know, a lot of people have. Isn't this a strange thing about lockdown? If you don't lose your job, you have to sort of apologize for it. Well, anyway, I didn't lose my job. And so I thought, I'd been looking at Nemo's War for ages, just because it really appealed. It looks great. That box is really evocative. And, you know, old Thule, his art is great. And I thought, if I could find something solo that is as engrossing as a computer game, for instance, and that was always my point. I was like, if I want to play solo, I'll play a computer game. There's so much less overhead. You don't have to move all the stuff and all of that sort of stuff. I thought, just to play on my own, it's a hassle, right? But I played Nemo's War, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, to the point, Nemo's War is one of the games I've played most this year. And I mean, due to certain factors. I mean, I certainly wouldn't have played it that much if it wasn't for the pandemic. But yeah, I played Nemo's War, and I was surprised at how engaged I was. You know, cup of tea, set it out, and it's quite an event, Nemo's War. You know, there's loads of components and all of that. And I really enjoyed it. And I kind of, and when I said kind of, I kind of saw what it was about when it comes to solo games. I thought, I kind of understand this now. And saying that, though, I still can't get away from the fact I'm an extrovert. I think it's really interesting about games in that games offer introverts a social outlet without sort of social difficulty. Because when you feel awkward, you can look down at the board, you can plan your turn. There's no compulsion to constantly be engaging, constantly chatting, especially with strangers, right? And what gaming is great for is allowing new people to get together and have a communal thing that they can do without having to just do small talk all the time. But I'm an extrovert, and I enjoy the social aspect of gaming, even though primarily I play Eurogames, and they're not the most social games in the world. But I got into games through games like The Resistance and Coup and things like this, you know. And even though I could occasionally play solo games, really the heart of it is the occasion for me. It's the fact that it's not like sitting down on your phone and going plang, 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 plang on the train, right? You have to get something out. You have to lay it out. There's an element of work, an element of ritual to actually getting the thing started. Then you have people coming together, not at the moment, but you have people coming together, and there's this sense that, you know, it's I guess board games for me is because I'm from a culture in which communal eating isn't a thing. You pop your dinner plate, you pop your dinner plate on your lap and you sit in front of the telly and you eat as quickly as possible because it's fuel and nothing else. So I was never from an environment in which you sat down and ate. Board games is that for me. It's that ritual. It's that thing that you can do 2 or 3 times a week where you get together and you just engage with people, mostly without the digital world encroaching, although everyone looks at their phones. David L., good evening. John Shackleton, evening. People here, 7 people. I mean, it's literally 7 people more than I expected. And so, yeah, solo games, I get it. I can see, especially if you just want to play and you just want to play. But fundamentally, games will always be a social thing. So I'll never be a compulsive solo gamer, though I do get it now. And I'm really looking forward. I'm going to get a copy of Falling Skies, I think, the new CGE game, because just the box alone looks exciting. CGE are great. Someone said it to me the other day. I was playing games the other day, and someone said, I'm going to buy Arnak from CGE, and they said the thing is with CGE, they really edit their games, and it's true. You get a lot of publishers. I'm not going to name any names, but the games feel 3/4 done, 90% done. They feel like they need just a bit more iteration. Apart from Orleans Stories, which just wasn't done. They put it in a box and it wasn't done. The worst game. I mean, I hated Gugong, but God, Orleans Stories, it just wasn't done. It wasn't finished. Anyway, but Czech Games Edition, you can rely on them. Their games are gonna be finished. They're gonna be play tested, and you're gonna get a game that works. This is Kingery 2011. Hi, Ben. Love the Channel Struck podcast, and Skull King arrives tomorrow. Really excited to try it after your video. Amazing. You won't regret it if you've got people to play with. I mean, this is the tragedy about this thing, because things like Skull King really are they're the essence of why I game. You play something, it's brilliant every time, it's funny every time. I played it just the other night, and people were laughing at me because I think I scored minus 300 points. And yeah, brilliant, absolutely fantastic. I'm so glad you're getting it. And people are watching. I've said this before. Can we get into double figures? We're on 9. Any questions? Just pop them in the chat. That was 10 minutes on one question. I'm amazingly loquacious. Or mouthy, your choice. So Steve M. Dagda 86. He asked me, what's the most least favorite thing about living in Germany or Berlin in particular, both present and past? So it's really interesting. I've called myself a crap transient. That's what I call myself. So I never ever stay anywhere permanently, but I stay there. I'm crap at being transient, because I was in Leeds for 3 years. I was in Vienna for 8 years. I've been in Berlin for 9 years now. And after I left my hometown, which is Tenbury Wells in Worcestershire, for anyone who's interested. After I left my hometown, I never felt at home anywhere. I always felt that I was in a place that was temporary, whether that would be the place that I was living in or the city I was living in. And, part of that is, the people you have around you. Part of that is family not being there, all of that sort of stuff that grounds you. I mean, it's very interesting that I have lots of friends, but none of them have any sort of frame of reference really about who I was before. Alex, hi from Mexico. Who I was, that's the 10th person. Who I was before I was this person now. They don't know my family. They don't know. I mean, I could be a complete psychopath. I think it's really interesting is when you don't move around, when you stay in one place, people don't only know you, they know your whole family. You're endorsed by the fact that there are people who know you're not a psycho, right? Whereas, I could be anyone. But the first time I felt at home kind of for a decade, I suppose, was when I moved to Vienna. And I really loved Vienna for a while. Vienna is beautiful. It is, walking through Vienna at night is quite magical. You feel like you're in, you feel like you've been thrown back 150, 200 years. And so, I enjoyed Vienna for a while, and I fell in love, and I had my heart broken, and did all of those things that a place does for you, right? A place where you're not a tourist, where you actually live. But after a while, Vienna got stale, and basically because I'm an actor, and I'm an English-speaking actor, and everyone was saying, why aren't you in Britain? Why are you here? You're not going to get any work. And the reason I'm not in Britain is because Britain's a failed state in many ways. It's not a very nice place. And it's a difficult place. And I felt the standard of living was just simply better in Vienna. But it got to a point where I had to leave. So I decided that I would go to somewhere where I spoke the language. I speak German, kind of. And somewhere where I spoke the language, but also somewhere where that had a bit more going for it. It was a bit more of an international city, because I christened Vienna Mozart, Disneyland Mozart. It doesn't feel like a proper place where real stuff is going on, right? And so I moved to Berlin, and I hated it. For the first 2 or 3 years, moving from Vienna, which is a quiet place, a clean place, I hated Berlin. I was really unhappy here. Even though I was working, I'm getting more acting work here than I was in Vienna, much more, because there is much more here. And I think my biggest issue that I had firstly, I moved when I was sort of 36, right? And the older you get, the more difficult it is to find friends. Because, young people think you're old and don't want to hang around with you, and older people stay in, right? And so there was that, but also I found Berlin incredibly superficial. I just felt that, Berlin is a party city. It's a decadent city. It's a hedonistic city. And I felt that people just didn't really care about anyone else. Everyone was there for the cooler person. And if you met someone who was cooler or could give you a different offer, you could just, screw you. And interestingly, it was when I got into gaming properly that I started to find a more settled community. And then I started to find people, some of whom, gamers are a particular bunch, right? So there were some I couldn't tolerate, but, a lot of people who ended up becoming my core group. And, it's been a really weird thing in the last couple of years, because that core group has started to dissipate, has started to break up. People have got married, people have moved away. And, we had a core group and we used to go away for board game weekends and things like this. And that's kind of stuff to happen. And COVID has put a complete kibosh on everything, of course. And so that was an issue for me with Berlin. It's just incredibly superficial. Although that depends who you hang around with, right? What I like about Berlin is it's exciting, it's vibrant, it's, there's a lot of cool stuff going on. And someone has said, Andrea Jurisic, Andrea, give me marks out of 10 for my pronunciation of your name. Andrea Jurisic. I think that's about a 7, but you tell me. Marks out of 10 for pronouncing your name. It's just a great board game city. And I found doing a podcast, and a podcast that people listen to, not loads of people, but people listen to, helps to have a local world with people you see face to face, and then a bigger external world with, I have friends, people who I would consider friends, who I've never met, which is the bizarrest thing. Nick Mariner is a great example here. I really respect the guy because he's really clever, and I've spoken to him over Skype and things, but I've never met him face to face, and yet I consider him a friend. And that's a weird thing, isn't it? That's the internet. That's weird. So, and Steve M requested there for me to play Wonderwall. That isn't going to happen because Wonderwall is rubbish. All right, so that's 2 of the questions down. I'm able. So, Alex, I'll get to your question in a minute if you're still here. I'm going to remove my capo. And I'm going to play another song. This one, 7 out of 10. Andrea. Yeah, that's what I thought. So this is a great song. It's a funny song. And this is from an album. So I was big into the Dead Kennedys in the 90s. And I followed Jello Biafra sort of, and all of his work ritualistically for ages. And I bought all his spoken word albums and all of that sort of stuff. A lot of sort of my political tutelage was under Jello Biafra. And he did a country album with Mojo Nixon in 94, I think, called, I'll get to that, John, called Prairie Home Invasion. And this isn't Jello Biafra, this is Mojo Nixon. And this song is called Are You Drinking With Me, Jesus? It's out of tune, hang on. This is what you come to streams for, to watch people tuning guitars. It's a little sharp, love. Yeah, it'll do. Well, I saw you sitting there. I was trying not to stare. I wasn't sure if it was you. I didn't know just what to do. Well, are you drinking? Well, me, Jesus, I can't see you very clear. Are you drinking with me, Jesus? Won't you buy a friend a beer? As you nestle on your bar stool, I felt your warmness within. Well, then I looked down at my pants and, well, that wasn't warmness. I'd wet myself again. Well, are you drinking? Well, me, Jesus, I can't see you very clear. Are you drinking with me, Jesus? Won't you buy a friend a beer? Does your head pound, Jesus? Does hung over you to rise? How does paradise look, Jesus, through holy bloodshot eyes? Should we take a cab home, Jesus? Shit, man, we can hoof it from here. I know you can walk on the water, but can you walk on this much beer? Said, are you drinking? Well, me, Jesus, I can't see you very clear. Are you drinking with me, Jesus? Won't you buy a friend a beer? Are you drinking? Well, me, Jesus, I can't see you very clear. Are you drinking with me, Jesus? Won't I didn't lose too many people. Colin Hunter, hello. Haha, I didn't want to rude out point that it was attitude. Yes, it was. I was thinking it'll do. Hi, Cherry from Bournemouth. All right, let's go to the questions then. So, Alex Box from Mexico asks, if this game is broken, I'm sorry, I haven't a clue for board games. I'd say it's more the news quiz, really, but there we are. And 5 games for Doomsday is Desert Island Discs equivalent. I have no idea, honestly. I have no idea. It's not an island. It's a non-IP infringing cabin in the woods, I'll have you know. What other classic British staples would be ripe for adapting? That's a really difficult question. I wish you'd asked me that previously and I could have thought about it. What would be ripe for adapting? Let me think. I guess something, a sort of board game QI, where you have questions and strange facts about the people. I mean, if there's going to be a community that has, the notable people within it have odd, strange facts about them, then that would be the kind of thing. It's like when you're doing research on Mark Herman and you realize he was Edward Snowden's boss. That was amazing. And then I asked him about it and he actually answered the question. Brilliant. So yeah, let's have a QI. It's a panel game show, Or I've been watching a lot of Great British Bake Off at the moment, which is the best program on TV. And so maybe a board game thing where people have to make themed cakes and themed pasties. It was just pasty week on Bake Off. And I haven't had a pasty in ages. So if anyone wants to send me a pasty through the mail, anyone's in Britain who wants to send me a pasty, send me a pasty. So let's have a look. So John Shackleton asks what music I'm into. So I've got a very eclectic music taste, I guess. And so I started off, my first favorite band, the one band I heard, and I remember as a kid, and I was bought the album as a kid, and I played it on tape, and it was on my new Ghetto Blaster. My first favorite band was Frankie Goes to Hollywood. I remember listening to Welcome to the Pleasure Dome endlessly, and I remember when I was a kid, the video for Two Tribes was banned because it was Ronald Reagan and Chinyenkov having a fight, and at one point Ronald Reagan bit Chinyenkov's ear off, and Holly Johnson was the commentator. And I remember someone said, "Oh, it's been banned, but someone's got a hooky VHS copy of it." And I remember going around to a friend's house and watching a hooky VHS copy of the video for Two Tribes by Frankie Goes to Hollywood. Brilliant. And after Frankie Goes to Hollywood, I was big into the Beastie Boys. I was big into Public Enemy. And then I went through the Manchester phase, Stone Roses, Happy Mondays. I really loved the Charlatans. I really loved the first In Spiral Carpets album. I'm sure none of you know any of these bands. And I'm losing people. And then grunge hit. And that was the thing that really got me, right? And so, like, everyone I knew, I don't think people could imagine it if they weren't there, how big Nevermind by Nirvana was, just how massive that album was. Everyone had a copy. Now, I'm not saying everyone had a legitimate bought from the shop copy, but everyone had a copy of Nevermind by Nirvana. It was just huge. And I would go to discos and they would play Smells Like Teen Spirit. We'd all get in a circle, jump up and down to Smells Like Teen Spirit. And I was going to see Nirvana in concert. And then Kurt Cobain had an overdose in Paris. And so they were playing at Wolverhampton, believe it or not. And the gig was cancelled. And so it was grunge that really got me. And I was into grunge. And on the other hand, I was into punk, really big into Dead Kennedys. They were a complete obsession for ages. And then I went through a phase of, so in my youth, I dabbled in comicular stimulation for a while. And so I got really into dance music for a while. like a lot of house music and some drum and bass. Then as I got older, you get slower and you get more contemplative. So I really got into a lot of singer-songwritery types, Iron and Wine, Sufjan Stevens, Elliott Smith. There are certain people you fall in love with, right? Elliott Smith was one that I completely fell in love with. Pavement was a band I was completely in love with for ages. And at the moment, I've been going through a sort of 2-year Ween jag. Ween are, I think, probably, I've been thinking about this, their run of albums from Chocolate and Cheese up to Quebec might be as good as the Beatles' run of albums from Rubber Soul up to Abbey Road. That's a huge statement to make, but I'm sticking by it. So Ween, I absolutely love. The new Sufjan Stevens album's all right. It's a bit fiddly, I think. And also, I just discovered Mastodon. And I listened to a bit of metal when I was growing up. So I was into Metallica at one point. I was into Pantera. And I've just heard Mastodon. And my God, they're amazing. I'm listening to the album based on Moby Dick. And it's absolutely incredible. The drummer is like this jazz fusion drummer. It's metal, but it's amazing. And it's got country in it. And highly recommend Mastodon. All right, so apparently, Andrea, I've confused him because the TV guy is talking to him. Hello, Andrea's wife. I'm the TV guy. It's YouTube. It's not really TV. David L says, what a talent. Thank you, David. And he also says, you don't get this on Sporadically Bored. You certainly don't. Are there any other questions? Or do I have to go to the previous questions? I don't know Taskmaster, Alex. I haven't watched British TV in ages. I only know he's saying a board game themed Taskmaster. No idea. I only know Bake Off, really. Colin Hunter, Public Enemy, absolutely. David L says he grew up with Nirvana. I'd just gone to secondary school when they came out with Nevermind. It was so rebellious. Yeah, we must be of a similar age then. I've got a lot of grey. Elliott Smith, amazing, yeah. Were you ever to My Bloody Valentine? No, not into. I never was, and they were always this band. So I was really into The Cure, and My Bloody Valentine seemed to be a band. I know they're not a goth band, or maybe they are, but they seem to be a band that, like New Model Army, My Bloody Valentine, all these sort of bands. And I listened to a bit of New Model Army, but I couldn't remember it for the life of me. And My Bloody Valentine were a band I always should listen to, and I haven't. There's certain gaps. So I'm not into Dylan. I don't really get Dylan. I certainly don't get Pink Floyd. Prog is something that completely passed me by. I argue with people all the time because I don't really get Radiohead either. And, and I should listen. Recommend me some My Bloody Valentine. And Andrea's saying Baroness. I've not heard Baroness. They sound like a goth band. Are they a goth band? All right, so we'll go to the Facebook questions. Dun, dun, dun. Marcus Brisman. He doesn't seem to be here. So as a board game media personality, I mean, thanks for the compliment, but come on now. Do you feel you have a responsibility for other people's enjoyment from the games you recommended? Do you feel you have to be careful with how you express your thoughts on games sometimes as not to influence people too much? No. Absolutely. I feel no qualms whatsoever in recommending things, because the thing is, I think also people have to realize that for all of the crenellation and all of the faux philosophical musings and all of this, I'm fundamentally, the act of reviewing something, the act of commenting on something, criticizing something, is about, so you like it, and then you go, okay, why do I like it? You have to work out, so you're starting at the I like it, and then you're trying to justify why. And, it's completely subjective. And the only game I think I would put my money on that you're going to buy it and you're going to like it and you're going to thank me is Skulking. Everything else, it's up to you. I think Skulking is as close. In my video, I said that Skulking was as close to a fail-safe game as I've played. And I've never seen Skull King fail. I've seen games I've seen Through the Ages fail, and Through the Ages is glorious. I've seen things like The Resistance that I love. I love The Resistance and I love Werewolf, but they're very fragile game experiences. So games will fail with some people. It's inexplicable. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they were talking about how they thought Uncut Gems wasn't very good. And like literally my jaw dropped, because I think Uncut Gems is one of the most perfect films ever made, and it's definitely the best film of last year, right? And your mileage will always vary. Subjectivity is a very huge thing. So John Shackleton's asked about, what about funk and reggae? Reggae never really got into, but I love one of my favorite albums. I think one of the best albums ever made is There's a Riot Going On by Sly and the Family Stone. It is almost flawless. It's absolutely astonishing. I'm really into Motown. I love 60s Motown. So Colin Hunter says, or soul, 60s Motown is probably the greatest era of music ever. I mean, that sort of from sort of the early 60s to the sort of mid to late 70s, Diana Ross, Smokey Robinson, Stevie Wonder, Marvin Gaye, Gladys Knight, all of that sort of stuff is flawless pop music. And to call it pop music, some people say, well, it's just pop music. But this is astonishing. John Shackleton says, when are you going to take your turn in 18 Chesapeake? You know, don't tell anyone this. I think I've forgotten the bloody rules to the game. So my turn comes up, and I'm not sure what I'm doing, but don't tell anyone. All right, so go back to the faces. If you've got questions, pop them in the chat, and I will answer them. Phil Cook has asked a question, which is very nice, Phil. It's very nice. I'm not quite sure it's deserved, but it's very nice. He says, video or podcast, which medium do you prefer or feel more comfortable with? So I've been doing podcasting now for 7 or 8 years. I've managed to piss off previous partners, so I started doing a podcast on my own. And I knew nothing about sound editing or anything when I first came to it. But now I feel kind of pretty comfortable. If you watched my Arkham Horror video, I did some sort of funky sound stuff at the beginning, and I just put that into Audacity and went bosh, 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 and it was done, and it was great. And video is so time intensive, labor intensive, difficult. So my Through the Ages video, which I think I'm really happy with, but we went to record it, and we recorded it and we finished recording it, and I came back here to edit it, and I realized that I hadn't recorded the audio for the first scene, and we'd gone out to a place down the road, and I hadn't recorded the audio for the first scene. So I could edit all the thing, and then the first scene wasn't there. And the first scene's quite important in anything, I would suggest. And so, yeah, we had to go back the next day, and that's why it was late. And and so video's really hard work. This is something I'm learning at the moment, and I'm being helped with a lot by people. And it's really nice to watch, and when you get something, so like the opening shot of the Through the Ages video with the sort of faux Cyrillic text that was taken at if you're ever in Berlin, go to the Soviet Memorial in Treptower Park. Absolutely the most amazing thing you'll ever see. I felt it felt like a 70s movie. It felt like the opening to All the President's Men or something. I was really happy with that, and I used Paul Robeson underneath, but it's a learning video at the moment. It's very much a learning process, and I need to get a workflow that makes me not rubbish at it. All right, so Colin Hunter asks, what board game reviewers do I like? So I think, obviously, hands down, I don't watch them much, anymore, but I did compulsively. But I think the high watermark for board game reviewers is most definitely Shut Up and Sit Down. Obviously, I watched a video recently, and like the writing is spot on, and the things they're doing with video now is quite incredible. They're great. Matt Thrower is brilliant. He's a proper writer. You know, he constructs a review. He's just released a Pandemic Season 0 review, and I don't really want to read it because I don't want it to queer my experience because I'm going to stop playing that soon. But yeah, Matt Thrower's amazing. Dan Thurot's amazing. Let me think. I love Punchboard Paradise. I love their podcast, and they review games, so I guess they're one of my favorite reviewers. Their views on Through the Ages are clearly wrong, but yeah, there are a few, and you know, I think there are a lot of. I don't think there are any charlatans in board game review. There are people probably who aren't being completely honest with kind of what money they're getting from people, and I have no time for people who are just doing marketing. I don't get it, you know. It was very interesting. There's a guy, he did a video, and he's a board game publisher, but he sort of worked in video a lot, and he did this video on how to compose a shot, how to do lighting, and it was really useful. And he really he's really, you know, he gave some great advice. I mean, I was watching it, just getting started in video, thinking, wow, this is brilliant. And then at the end, he was like, oh, and a few notes for reviewers. And he started giving, this is a board game publisher giving tips to reviewers on how to review games. And basically he was saying, don't be so nasty about people's games. Say, instead of saying this game is bad, say this game wasn't for me. Well, that's two different things. So the most important thing with board game reviewing is be honest. That's the most important thing. You are serving, the thing is, you are not serving the publisher. You are serving the people who consume your review. If you're worried about the review copies drying up, you're in it for the wrong reason. So always serve the people who consume your material. So, David L. question. Do you worry about offending publishers, designers when discussing or reviewing a game? It seems like a lot of board game media folk are overly concerned. This kind of goes on. Do I worry about offending? Sure, I do. I had to review one of Tony Boydell's the expansion for Guilds of London. Now, I love Guilds of London, and I hated the expansion. And so Tony's a friend of mine, and I had to really slate his game. Auf der Walz by Spielworks. I'm friends with Uli too, and I don't think it's very good. And you never want to offend anyone unless you know it's Donald Trump or whatever. But you never go out to offend anyone. But if people put something out in public, then they have to accept, and it's hard sometimes. Like, you know, every time I read a negative statement about my show, like someone was recommending podcasts, because every occasionally people go on Facebook and say, do you know any good board game podcasts, right? And someone recommended 5 Games for Doomsday, and the guy who'd asked for the recommendations responded by saying, yeah, I could not get on with that show. And of course, you know, I read that and I thought, oh, you, why couldn't you get on with it, you bastard? But you have to accept it, right? You have to, once you put stuff out into the public, you have to accept that people are going to have views on it. And the fact that you've worked hard, the fact that you've put a lot of effort in and all of that sort of stuff, it's absolutely inconsequential. You have to be honest, because again, you're not serving the publisher, you're serving the consumer. And some people will be pissed off, and they will not think about you when reviewing stuff, when putting out new games. And you know, hopefully the hope is most people will be sound, right? Because the point is, if you don't like one game, doesn't mean you're not gonna like another, you know. So John Shackleton, anyone in the board game industry you don't get on with, don't name names, but the reason why would be interesting. Well, my previous partner on the Perfect Information podcast, obviously we don't get along particularly well, and yeah, it's about that. the thing is, what's really interesting is most people in the board game industry, you only meet them at Essen or da 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 da. So to dislike, I mean, some people you meet and you go, I probably wouldn't want to spend a night with you, but not really, because the thing is, I think what's really interesting, and it's a modern phenomenon, and it's quite a depressing one, but there is a difference, quite a difference often, between the way people are on social media and the way people are in real life. There are some people on Twitter who are just kind of intolerable, right? And you meet them, and I don't mean in a trolly, aggressive, racist way. You read what they read and you think, either you're stupid or you're pandering or whatever, and you read them and you just don't, you think, ugh. And then you meet them in real life and they're sound, they're very nice. And so there's no one I don't, apart from that one person, but there's no one I don't get along with, because I don't, I have the people I've spent most of the time with are the people I like, so they're kind of my mates, right? I think there are people who odd, who react strangely to Twitter, and I think what's really important is people think that Twitter is the entire world, and Twitter really isn't. Twitter is a very small amount of people just shouting very loudly, and people are worried. There is a board game publisher, you could probably guess who, people dragged up some quotes he made from a blog 10 years ago when he was in his 20s. And, he thinks, oh, God, Twitter's going to ruin my life. And the problem is it's a really difficult one, right? Because mostly Twitter is a very small group of people just shouting into the void, right? But sometimes people's lives are ruined by Twitter. It's a really difficult one. But people I don't get on with, nothing springs to mind. No. There are people I wouldn't want to meet, but that's simply because of their social media presence. But then again, they might be lovely, because often they are. So, Jonathan Godfrey, do you ever think you miss out on sponsorship opportunities or opportunities to be given review copies due to use of bad language? And the answer to that is no, absolutely not. I miss out on sponsorship opportunities and review copies because I'm just not big enough. This is the point, right? So the publisher who publishes my favorite game, I wrote to them and asked if I could, be considered for their reviewer list. And they were very polite, but they just wrote back to me and said, you don't have enough subscribers and you don't have enough listeners. So we're not going to waste time. That's why you miss out, which is difficult to hear, but completely understandable. Because the point is, for me, it's an act of critique. For the publishers, it's an act of marketing. And so they're not going to waste their marketing money on someone, I think people really like my stuff, but not thousands of people, not hundreds of thousands of people. Sponsorship, and I think what's really interesting within the board game realm, because it is such a small niche, I think, unless you're one of the big people, and there are a few, Secret Cabal, Watch It Played, Dice Tower, Shut Up and Sit Down, it seems no pun included now, Heavy Cardboard, they will be approached. Most people you have to approach and ask them. And it's, the board game industry is very small. And I miss out on sponsorship opportunities because I'm awful at it. So if anyone wants to sponsor my show, give me some money. I've just had to buy a new microphone because my microphone died. So, And Jonathan Godfrey, he loves a good swear. I also love a good swear. Okay, so another song. With me. So someone brought this up on Facebook the other day. And I realized I haven't listened to this song in 25 years. And this was the first, I remember someone gave me a tape with the first Jamboree album on one side. That's the one with Too Young to Die. And on the other side was an album called Siamese Dream by a band I'd never heard of called the Smashing Pumpkins. And I remember particularly liking this song, and it's one of their most famous ones. And this is Disarm. It's Britney Spears. You know, I was a big Spears fan of the day. I was 19 when Hit Me Baby One More Time came out. And this is Disarm by the Smashing Pumpkins. And I'm going to mess it up. I just messed it up. Hang on. This guitar goes out of tune very quickly. Okay, that's fine. Okay, strings flat. That B string doesn't sound right. All right, start again. It's still out of tune. Sorry about this. I just want new strings. D strings well out. That's better. Time you with a smile, cut me like you want me to, cut that little child inside of me is such a part of you. Oh, years burn. Oh, years burn. I used to be a little boy, so old in my shoes. What I choose is my choice. What's a boy supposed to do? Killer in me is a killer in you, my love. Send this smile over to you. Some you with a smile, leave you like they left me here, weather in the night. The bitterness of one who's left alone. Oh, years burn. Oh, years burn, burn, burn. I used to be a little boy, so old in my shoes. What I choose is my voice. What's a boy supposed to do? Killer in me is a killer in you, my love. Send the smile over to you. Killer in me is a killer in you. Send the smile over to you. Killer in me is a killer in you. Send the smile over to you. Killer in me is a killer in you. Send the smile over to you. There we go. How many people have I lost? Because I'm not looking at the stream, I'm looking at the thing. Ah, I didn't lose too many people. I do a passable Billy Corgan. I wish I did a passable Billy Corgan's bank balance too. Ah, Quality Beast, Dylan, hello there. I hope your baby isn't keeping you awake. And I hope that your game's coming out soon, because I'm very much looking forward to it. Bringing me back to hearing the radio and driving on the highway from Tom Judd. Well done, thank you. Why the move into video, Ben, and where do you intend to take it? Well, the move into video was very simple because it was a Patreon stretch goal. I said, once I get to $300, I'll do my top 50. And I didn't just want to do this. This is fine. Streaming is good. It's fun. But I didn't just want to do, I'll sit here with my list and go, oh, yes, number 50. So this is a worker placement, you know. We live in a world where you can make your own telly. I mean, you know, maybe if you're 15 now, this is completely normal. I mean, bloody hell, you can make your own telly. How crazy is that, right? When I was a kid, all I wanted to do was be on telly. And now, all I need to do to be on telly is make my own television. So I did the videos, and that's great. And I really enjoyed the process because I enjoy writing. I think if I would say where I'm most confident, and where I'm most confident and I think I'm best is writing. I've been writing seriously now, and I mean seriously, like sitting down and actually writing stuff since I was 32, I really started writing, and I've written a book, and it's actually sitting on my hard drive and all of this. And and so with the videos, I wanted to use my writing, and so I did, and really interesting, because usually I write these reviews that are quite rambly, and I allow myself to go off on tangents, and all of that is great, and writing just a single paragraph about a game, why? And then I decided, you know, I think my top 5 games deserve a bit longer, so I did a video for all of them, and I wanted them to be interesting. Berlin's a city that's incredible in terms of architecture, in terms of places to go. So I wanted to go out and film in Berlin. Now that's done, I think what I'm going to do is the YouTube channel, there will probably be reviews on it, and also essays, video essays. And it's going to be, because doing it outside is I mean, great and all that, but it's it's really labor intensive. So it's going to be in a set, and I'm probably going to recycle for the next video something, because I think it needs to be said, something I wrote about journalism and board game, the dreaded phrase ethics in board game journalism. So I'm gonna do that for the next video, and it's going to be essays. I'm going to write essays, and there will be some reviews. So, Matterphil, hello. How often do you play? Do you try to play more than you need in order to be up to date or knowledgeable? So how often do I play? Well, this is really interesting because lockdown kind of slowed down here, though I've been not as conservative as some, but reasonably conservative. But I was trying to play games twice a week. Germany has gone into a stricter lockdown now, and what that means for us, who knows? Do I try and play more than I need in order to be up to date? So more than I need, no, because right at the moment, it's not a job. It's still a hobby. You know, I make a little bit of money at it, but it really is still for the love of it. So more than I need, no. To try and be up to date before lockdown, absolutely. I wanted to play as broad. When I get into stuff, I want to know about it. So I want to play what's new, but I also want to play the classics, you know. That's why I bought Through the Ages Sight Unseen when the new version came out, because I thought this is a classic and I want a Civ game. So I bought that. And so I want to be up to date. I played Bonfire, the new Stefan Feld game, at the weekend. A couple of days ago. I felt like the weekend. Yeah, but I played Bonfire, and you know, I'm gonna get whatchamacallit, Hallertau, the new Rosenberg game, and I'm also thinking about buying the new Prague game because it's quite cheap, the Delicious Games one. And I want to play these games. I think a friend of mine has kickstarted Blood on the Clock Tower, which I really want to play. And yeah, I want to be up to date. I mean, the thing that lockdown has really hit, and you'll notice this if you listen to the podcast channel, is the reviews. I cannot review games at the moment because I have one group at the moment. The beauty previously was if I wanted to review a game, I would play it with different groups. And it's not that I want to get a different experience with different people. It's not that. It's just that people just, my group doesn't want to play the same game all the time. So that's really suffered the reviewing of games. But yeah, I really want to be as up to date as possible. I want to play all the new stuff, and I want to play all the classics. And, the biggest revelation for me in the last 2 years is Reiner Knizia. Just discovering Reiner Knizia. And I'd heard people talk about how brilliant they thought he was. And then when I actually started delving into his games, I just realized, yeah, probably the best board game designer around. David L says, I've got to head off. Thanks for the music, Ben, and for your excellent podcast. Thank you, David. And I will do another stream soonish, and I hope you'll join that one too. Okay, I've still got some questions on the faces. Mara M has a question. Has the pandemic changed or intensified anything you feel about board gaming? What it really has made me realize is that I got into board gaming to play with a lot of different people and not necessarily to make lots of friends. Hey, Marcus, I answered your question and you missed it. Not to make, because not everyone you meet can be a friend, right? But there are lots of people you can spend time with and have company with. And so I really miss, there's a community center. A friend of mine started a board game meetup at a community center down the road from me. And he did an absolutely amazing job. He ordered beers in and he made food, and he's a super brilliant host. And it was, it became an institution. And just playing games in a room with loads of people and the buzz and the hubbub and getting up and walking around and looking at the games other people are playing and just slyly shooting the breeze with someone for 2 minutes. God, I miss that. God, I miss it. And it's I guess being an extrovert, I miss just hanging around with loads of people. Christ, Essen was last weekend. Can you imagine? Essen was last weekend. It's the first Essen I haven't been to since 2012. And absolutely fucking heartbreaking. No, I mean, absolutely heartbreaking. And I didn't really get into the Spiel Digital thing because I'm not into digital. I don't get into board games for the digital aspect. I get into board games for the willful analog aspect to board gaming. That's why I'm in it. That's why I love it. So another question from Marcus Brisman, who's just joined. This is a good one. So he's asked, as an actor, what would be your dream role? And I read this earlier and I thought, what would be my dream role? And I realized I've already done it. I've already played it, which is amazing. No. I wanted to play Jimmy Porter in Look Back in Anger. Look Back in Anger is a British play from the late 50s. This was when working class people were finally breaking into the theatre in post-war Britain. And what they did was turn something that was stolid and stuffy and dull, and they exploded it, and it was truly astonishing. And Look Back in Anger is probably the greatest play to have come out of that era. And Jimmy Porter is a character that's, an objectionable human being, but he's in utter agony, and that agony destroys all those around him. And the part is beautifully written. John Osborne's poetry, John Osborne's complete understanding of what it is to be someone who feels like the world has let them down. That they have all the talent in the world and they feel like the world has let them down and they just want to beat the world up because of it. And that's Jimmy Porter. And it's absolutely, it's a brilliant part. And I got to play it in Vienna, at the theatre in Vienna. I got to play the role. I'm much too old for it now, so I couldn't play it again. But it was wonderful. And I got to shout and scream and be nasty. And yeah, if you get a chance to watch Look Back in Anger, do it. It's brilliant. And another question, Marcus is great at asking questions. Another question is, have you ever considered designing your own board game? And yeah, of course, all the time. And I have one idea that's rattling around my head and I'm never going to do it because I have no idea where to start. Where do I start? If anyone wants to help. So I'm going to do one last song. If you've got any other questions. Oh. So AJ800. Hello, AJ. Has asked, have you ever said what your 5 games for Doomsday are? Is that an upcoming episode for the future? We know your top 5. Would be great to hear your 5G for D, the reasons behind them. Now, I'm clever, you see. So if you subscribe to the Patreon at the $5 and above level, you get access to a lot of bonus material. The first ever bonus episode I did was my 5 games for Doomsday. And I was interviewed by Gil Hover, and I don't know whether they would be the same games now, but that was when the podcast started, so that's 3 years ago now. And one of my top 5, or maybe 2 of my top 5, definitely one of my top 5 is in that 5 games for Doomsday. They'd probably be different now, but 2 of the games would definitely be the same. And yeah, now this is possibly the most stupid thing I could ever say, but I'm pretty sure if you subscribed to my Patreon at the $5 level, you would instantly get access to all the bonus material, but your card wouldn't be charged until the beginning of the next month. Now, I'm not saying do that because that would be absolutely awful, but you could. And it's an interesting episode, I think. I might redo it. I might be the only guest because it's my show, goddammit. I might be the only guest to do 2 5 games for Doomsday. Okay, so I actually got a song request that I can play. So I'm going to play this, and then I'm going to leave you lovely people to your Friday night. This is from currently, I think, the best band around, which is Ween. And this is one of their most famous songs. It's off the album Chocolate and Cheese. It's actually not one of my favourite Ween songs, but I got asked for it. So why not play it? This is Buenas Tardes, Amigo. Bueno. Oh. Tardes. Okay. It's not the same if you don't mess up first. Buenos. Bueno. I can't get the pitch. Buenos tardes, amigo. Okay. Buenos tardes, amigo. Hola, my good friend. Cinco de Mayo's on Tuesday, and I'd hope we'd see each other again. You killed my brother last winter. You shot him 3 times in the back. In the night, I still hear Mama weeping. Mama still dresses black. I looked at every fiesta. For you, I wanted to greet. Maybe I'd sell you a chicken with poison to laced meat. You look like my brother. Mama loved him the best. He was head honcho with the ladies. Mama always said he was blessed. The village all gathered around him. They couldn't believe what they saw. I said it was you who killed him, and that I'd find you and upstand the law. The people of the village believed me. Mama, she wanted revenge. I told her I would see she was honored, that I'd find you, put you to death. Now that I've found you on this such a joyous day, I tell you it was me that killed him. But the truth I never have to say. Buenos tardes, amigo. Hola, my good friend. Cinco de Mayo's on Tuesday, and I'd hoped we'd see each other again. There we go. I messed up at the beginning, but I think I got it back at the end. We've still got 12 people. Oh, Dan Hughes, you're late. Dan, you're late. I hope you're well. Oh, just got one question. John Shackleton. He says, do you have your own merchandise? Let's have a look. So we have tpublic.com/people/5 games for Doomsday, I believe. Let me have a look. Yep. Also, I have a Teespring site as well. And the Teesprings are better. Go on to Teespring and look for 5 games for Doomsday. You can buy... Oh, Dan's been at work. I know. I was at work today. I don't understand the whole having to work thing. So, we're coming to the end. It's been an hour and 20 minutes. I'll go till 9:30 if people have questions. Does anyone have any questions? Does the internet titan that is Daniel Hughes have a question for me on my stream? I'm waiting. No is the answer to that. Anyway, so I guess with that, we'll end. For those who have watched this, you can watch it again on the YouTubes, because these things need repeated viewing. Watching me talk out of my rear end for almost an hour and a half is the kind of thing that is an indictment on our society. But thank you all. It got up to sort of like 18 people at one point, which is, 18 people more than I thought it would be. For all of you people who have stayed with me the whole time, thank you very much. I can't do super chats. So, none of you have done super chats, and that's understandable. You don't have the option. But once I get the option for super chats, super chat me 50 quid, and I'll stick tassels on my nipples or something like that. Anyway, so to all who have watched, thank you so much. And I hope when this hysteria is over, that we will all be able to get together in person, have a beer, and maybe play a game. Oh, thank you, Dylan. Thank you, Marcus. Oh, Dan Hughes has got a question. What was my first favorite game? Haha. He hasn't been watching my top 50 list. Yeah, my first favorite game was, it's still brilliant, actually. It's still in my top 50. It's brilliant. I just don't play it very often. My first favorite game was Blood Bowl Team Manager. It's brilliant. It's really, and it's probably impossible to get hold of now because it's one of those Fantasy Flight Games Workshop crossovers. And it's a sort of, it's at its core a take that game, but it's a really clever and enjoyable take that game. And I would highly, highly recommend, if you can, it's probably expensive to buy, but not in German, interestingly enough. You can buy all of these games. Like Chaos in the Old World is like 30 quid in German. Or what about as a kid? What about as a kid? So I loved Hero Quest. I played it briefly. I never had a copy of it. A friend had a copy of it. I loved Hero Quest. And I never played 40k, but I bought some Orc models, and I was the Blood Moon clan, and I never actually played it, but I was in love with the Orcs, and I still am to this day. I think what people don't realize about 40k is that actually 40k is very sardonic, very ironic, and its overblown grimness is a form of comedy. And the orcs are the most obvious comic foil in the game. And yeah, Dan says they're the football hooligan aesthetic. It's exactly what it is. It's that joy of destruction. And I've always found that a very attractive quality. I understand it. One of the best songs ever written is Smash It Up by The Damned. Brilliant. And that sort of wanton joy in destruction. Sometimes it feels like the world needs that, though it really doesn't. Never vote for the person who's going to shake up the system. They are a fascist. So strangely, I think maybe one of my favorite games from a kid. Absolutely, my favorite game was Super Mario Land on the Game Boy, but that's a computer game. But apart from that, yeah, it's a game I never played, 40k, and I still haven't played 40k to this day. Crazy. All right, brilliant. Well, thank you so much. Thank you all for joining. I will do this maybe in a couple of weeks. I've actually really enjoyed this, and people actually watched it. I'll play some more songs maybe, and I'll put up a thread. You can ask me questions, and thank you so much. And hopefully we shall get through this second wave of horrendousness. And as I said, we can all get together, have a beer, and play a game. Power to the people.